Hi, this is Caroline Miller, your host for Just Read It. This is a book talk show where Western writers get to comment on the New York Times bestseller. Today we're discussing The Book of Hope by Jane Goodall and Douglas Abrams. This is a nonfiction. I guess I'll leave my guess to characterize it, but it's I guess something of a philosophy book. In any case, let me get my guests in so you can learn something a little about them. And I'll start with Lynn Goodwin, Lynn Goodwin to be correct. Lynn, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
We were delighted. Now, you're the author of several books, and then I guess you have a new venture. So bring us up to date, at least on your latest book and what your new venture is.
Okay. My book, I guess the most recent one is Talent, which is a young adult. And I have another young adult coming out sometime this year called Disrupted. I have a memoir out called Never Too Late, From Wannabe to Wife at 62. I also have been running Writer Advice, www.writeradvice, all one word, .com, since 1997. We run 4 contests a year, and we have a ton of other stuff on the e-zine. I'd love to have you go in and take a look, and maybe you might even want to contribute a book review or something.
That sounds great, Lynn, and you probably will have some people very interested in your offer. My second guest is Craig Stewart, who is a podcaster, and we're very excited to have him because he's a person who, as I do, believes in giving a boost to indie writers. So Craig, tell us a little bit about yourself and the podcast.
Thank you, Caroline. It's great to be on your show. And I look forward to interviewing you in September 22nd. My wife, Barbara Robitaille, and I co-host a podcast called Ink and Pete. And we are dedicated to helping self-published authors and indie writers promote their work. We both love to read. We both love to write. We find that when people are wanting to market their books, there are some options that they're not taking advantage of. One of them is recording a podcast and promoting it via their social media. And so we offer this as a service to emerging authors and primarily memoirists, but we've also had poets and a couple of fiction writers as well. So, yeah. I also write. I've been a freelance writer for years, and I've written everything from a tarot book to publishing blogs for a celebrity fitness trainer. And so, yeah, it's quite a mixed bag. I am not a published author myself. I hope to be one day. I've got 2 full-length manuscripts in my chest of drawers over here, but so far, I prefer promoting other people's work.
Well, certainly that's a generous gift, which many indie writers, I'm sure, are grateful for. Okay, let's start with our book. Now, Jane Goodall and Douglas Abrams is a dialogue between Jane, who everybody knows, and Douglas, I guess, Abrams has done a number of these books on aspects of life and philosophy and how to get through the 21st century. And I found it quite intriguing. Jane makes a distinction between optimism and hope, which frankly I don't buy, but it's a place to start, with hope being a decision to commit to do something, and optimism just wishing that it would happen. As I said in a blog about our book, I'm an old philosopher, and this parsing of the English language sometimes gets too refined. Nonetheless, the book has lots of meat in it. So I thought maybe I'll start with you, Lynn. What did you take away anything from the book that was memorable, or did you have a response to it that you want to share with us?
One of the most memorable things for me is the importance of combining hope and action. And something else that's really important is the recognition of the fact that we're all in, by we, I mean animals, plants, everything on the planet that is alive is a part of, I can't say the human race, but a part of life, I guess you'd say. I saw us interconnected in a new way, and I've been seeing it in other places since. So the idea stuck with me. I've always been very protective of insects. Well, in the last few years, I've been very protective of insects, and I will take various spiders outside. Good. And I just tell them I'm evicting them because they haven't paid their rent. But really, I'm giving them their life. And some of them really probably came in to die. And that's not something I totally understand. I had a gecko or something, a lizard of some sort, that came in, and I saw his tail sticking out from under the refrigerator. And instead of screaming, which I would have done once upon a time, I thought to myself, this guy's a part of the world too. He or she is just in the wrong place. Under my refrigerator is not a habitat. And as far as I know, and so I would say she opened up my eyes to a lot of things. I'm really impressed with her travel as well, but that's probably coming up in a separate question.
Well, we'll go wherever you want us to go, but I think you made a good, interesting comment that everybody has a place. We just have to find the right place.
Exactly.
Craig, what about you? What's your take on the book?
Caroline, I have to say that this book has really worked me over. I guess that's the way I would put it. I'm a big fan of hope. And at the same time, I had all these questions come up about anthropomorphism and what's it called? Anthropocentrism. All I can say is it's really worked me hard, and I've been reading a lot about hope from other people, and I'm trying to put a handle on it. I don't think there's one size of hope fits all. It's kind of, I think Jane Goodall is amazing. It's a great book, and her hope is so global, and I think for me, I felt like the way I can take bites of hope is just, in a little bit. I hope to be a good person today to my grandchildren. And I hope to feel more love for those around me. When I start thinking about the big picture about humans and the planet and oh man, I don't say I lose hope, but I feel like, whoa, I don't have the skill set to make that happen.
Yeah.
So that's how it struck me. So yeah, I'm very hopeful, and I'm looking at hope from a different lens now. I really enjoyed the book for that reason.
Well, Lynn, I saw you shaking your head with what Craig is talking about. You want to elaborate what you were responding to and what he said? Lynn?
I am here, and I am thinking of an appropriate response. I'm agreeing with his concepts. I'm agreeing with the idea that it did kind of open my eyes and shake me up. I read a ton of things, and I'm a better reader than listener, admittedly. So I can't remember exactly what I nodded to. And if either of you can tell me that, I can tell you why.
Well, let's start with the Craig's comment, which I think is important, that it opened him to a broader responsibility on the planet. In fact, I don't know what Craig would say to this, but in my own reading of the book, I kind of despaired because the responsibility is so huge that where do you begin? But you want to respond to Craig's comment about that?
I may already have done that. I am very aware that we're all in this together. We don't all speak the same language. There are varying ways to communicate. Dogs do it with their eyes and their tails. Cats do it. I'm not quite sure. I've never owned a cat. But I did once ride a horse that showed his resistance to me by just tightening up and not following the commands I was told to give him. I have seen a film about octopus. I can't remember.
Oh, I saw that one. Yeah. Well, let me put the question to you just a little bit differently then.
Okay.
Did the book leave you feeling, given the task that Craig was talking about, the challenge ahead of us, did you come away with hope, or did you have a little corner of despair?
Well, I live in the San Francisco Bay Area, where there is a lot of activism, among other things, and I know there is a lot of hope that things can change, but there's also a lot of daily despair as we hear the news. So I am kind of on a seesaw about that. Things certainly need to change. Nobody's going to argue with that. Whether they can, I believe they can. Whether they will is still up in the air.
Okay. All right. Well, Craig, given what Lynn has said and my little moments of philosophical pondering, what did you come away with as your personal responsibility? Or did you come away with a personal responsibility? Did Jane give you a plan for putting one foot in front of the other? Did you feel there a call to action of some kind?
That's a great question. And I would say my answer to that is kind of what goes along, I think the lines to what I believe, I don't know, I shouldn't be quoting this, but I think the Dalai Lama said, if you want to see real change in the world, it begins, right here with yourself. And what I find is another thing that comes to mind is the poem by Stephen Spender about, I think continually of those who are truly great. Now, not all of us are Jane Goodall or Gandhi or Martin Luther King. She makes that very clear in the book. And so my tendency is to feel like, okay, what can I do right here with the people that I am surrounded by in my life? How can I be more loving? And how can I exhibit my own faith, which is very strong, but how can I live that so that I'm being authentic to myself and to the people right around me? In terms of how that affects the global stage, I can't say. And I don't know. I don't have any aspirations to save the world. I am hopeful that we humans can turn some things around, but I also know that it starts right here with me. And that's one of the things I got from the book was, if I want to, let's say, work with my granddaughter and start a little garden and show her the beauty of growing a garden, that to me is a hopeful thing. Just seeds are so hopeful in and of themselves, just watching a seed come out of the ground. So I'm trying to take it. Yeah.
Go ahead.
More of a personal. Yeah, no, I'm just, it struck me so profoundly, the book, but I also realized, man, I need to just start in here and go from there. That's
what's the first step. Now, the book does sort of lead the way, and obviously both of you, as I, were profoundly touched by the challenges, but Jane doesn't leave us with the whole weight of the world. She gives us plenty of examples of people who are out there doing Craig, just what you were doing, and I'm sure what Lynn did when she takes out her spiders. It's taking personal responsibility and not to look at it as a world. We don't have to be atlases to lift the world, but each of us every day can make a grain of sand of contribution, and ultimately there is a beach. I wonder, Lynn, what's your take on that? Were there any people that Jane pointed out that you thought were impressed with what they were doing as individuals?
I cannot come up with names for you.
Oh,
I got the impression that there's a whole world of change needed. She found a niche, she stuck with it, she pursued it, and she did some excellent and outstanding things. I'm aware that she's in her 90s, and I'm not there yet by somewhat of a stretch. I was so impressed with how much energy she seems to have. And that's one thing I took away. You need energy to do things. And we need to take our energy and channel it into what's constructive, what's helpful, what will help the planet. Pretty much everybody in this country, that's a gross exaggeration, many of us in this country have more than enough. The more we can spread it around and share it, the better.
Well, that is, first of all, something to learn to share. Sharing, Craig, is probably the watchword that probably should go with hope. You're going to share maybe a little garden with your granddaughter. What else might you, was there anything about the book, by way of example, that struck you that little people can move mountains? Because when you look at it, Jane, I'm not sure she even had graduated from college when she took on this job in Africa to watch the gorillas. And yet from that, with her earnestness and her hard work, look what she did. So was she an inspiration to you in any way and show you a path, Craig?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, she's a total inspiration. Absolutely. She's a remarkable human being, a remarkable woman, all the things she's accomplished. No question about it. I like how she quoted Shakespeare, and she said, she said Shakespeare says, books in the running brooks, sermons and stones, and good in everything. That's a great quote, and I think she lives it. And I like to live that way too, looking at this. I live 2 minutes from the ocean, and if ever I need inspiration, I just walk to the ocean. So absolutely, yes, I did pick up things, and I think what you say, sharing goes along with hope, a big time, in a big way. And what occurred to me, and I think this is going to, what I really like, Caroline, thank you so much for asking me to join you and to read this book, because this is going to work me for some time. This is not just, oh yeah, we're going to be done on the 18th of February. No, this is going to keep working me. And I think what you pointed out just now, which makes sense to me, is like, maybe there's not a defined time in a person's life when they come upon whatever it is they are unique to do here. So, meaning, I'm hopeful that that there's still time to do things that will work out, that will make a difference.
Well, I saw Lynn shaking her head again. I don't want to put her on the spot, but I do have to personally agree with you. The trick in life, if you want to live a good one, I would think, is to try to be alert to the opportunities. And sometimes we're so busy staring at our feet that we don't see those. Lynn, do you have any comment on that?
I do. I think there's an example within the book in the way the interviewer respects Jane Goodall, talks to her, encourages her comments. He's putting himself second. He's putting the interviewee first, and he's not in any way telling her what to say, but he is kind of guiding the conversation to share what her gifts and putting himself second. And I think the role he puts himself in reinforces that message very effectively. He's a good interviewer, in my opinion.
Well, probably, yes. He's had a lot. He did the Dalai Lama and several other important. But I want to just pick up where our time is running out, but I wanted to pick up on something you just triggered in my mind. Sharing is important. Placing yourself second to someone else's needs is important. And I know you would both agree with that, but also extending equality to all living things. I came away with, Craig, I came away with so many responsibilities. I'm not sure I can live with them, but it's one step at a time, wouldn't you say? So I'm going to ask each to ask us all, since we're here with you, Lynn, would you recommend this book to our audience?
I already have. I've recommended it to one of my book clubs, and it wound up on the list as a possibility. We vote on the choices, so that's as much as is within my control. I would recommend it to anybody who wants a better understanding of the planet as it is and as it could be. I would recommend it to some people. Oh, I'm thinking of former students and certain politicians who shall remain nameless, who need a different perspective. I'm not sure what they would get out of it, but it is very much worth the time. I found myself rereading a number of passages because I wanted to be sure I understood and got it right. And I think the book is a gift to anyone who reads it.
Well, she shows us humanity moves one small human step at a time. That's my takeaway. Craig, what is your recommendation to our audience?
I do recommend the book, and I think that Lynn touched on some really important aspects of the book. I would strongly recommend it. I would encourage people to read it with, well, at least the way I read it was just, it was an opening for me, and I really like that. One of the things that I wrote down here that impressed me, Jane said that all of life's challenges are like our own individual curriculums that we must work hard to follow and master. And I feel like that's what I personally come away with. And I would encourage people that read the book to find out what their own little individual curriculums are.
Yes. Well, the book, a warning to the audience, it's informative, but it could be life-changing. So I too recommend the book. And we must close, but before I close, I want to, again, Lynn, give us your pitch about your latest book and your new project, just the website. We'll get it up again on the screen.
Okay, my latest book coming out sometime this year is called Disrupted. And my pitch is that Sandy Mason, who's now 16 and has finally gotten to stage manage in high school, which is something she always wanted to do, finds her whole life disrupted when a 7.2 earthquake on the other side of the hills shakes up not only the school where some buildings fall off of their foundations, but it re-stimulates, recreates what she felt 6 months earlier in the previous book, Talent, when they found out that her brother Bry had died in the war in Afghanistan.
Okay, that's
a lot there, I know.
That's a lot there. All right. And give us again your website that you want to.
Website is www.writeradvice.com.
Okay, that'll be on the screen, but it's good to hear it in your voice. Okay,
and I have people come in and take a look.
Okay. That's what we're here for. Let them know that you're there. Craig, about you now. Again, your podcast site and what you do with it.
Yes. Our podcast is inkandpetepodcast.com. You can check it out online where you can hear us on Apple Podcasts. You can hear us on Buzzsprout. What we do, my wife, Barbara Robitaille, and I, is we promote self-published authors and indie writers. And we are creating a platform for people to market their books. We realize that marketing in this day and age is not an easy thing. And so we're trying to help authors out. Yeah.
My dear, for me, you win the Jane Goodall Prize for charity, because there is nothing harder. Writing the book is easy. Marketing the book is a whole other world. Well,
exactly. Yeah.
I want to thank my guests, Lynn Goodwin, author, and Craig Stewart, podcaster extraordinaire. And I really look forward to being your guest on your podcast in September.
Okay. In September 22nd.
Okay, I'm looking forward to it. And to my audience, we only publish every 2 months. So we don't sell names and we don't have commercials. So if you don't want to miss wonderful conversations like the one we've had this afternoon, do sign up and join us for the future. But in the meantime, I'm so glad you were with us today. And thank you for being with me, Caroline Miller, at Just Read It.